turning and turning in a widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Or, in other words, shit happens. Welcome back, my friends. I'm Mellowseven, and this is Football Manager 2018, or at least tales of how it should be Football Manager 2018, and the type of stuff that happens to stop that sometimes. I sat down last night to edit about 6 videos that I had built up over the last day or two to get ready for the Thanksgiving break, so I would not have to worry about having videos ready. So I sat down to edit them, and the first one I opened up looks like this. And that's not exactly how it should look. So let's take a listen.
Jello's down here somewhere. We'll see if she pops up to make an appearance and get in the way.
As you can guess, that's not how I intended that audio to go. Now, I was using a program, and let me pull it up here, called Voicemeeter. This is what it looks like, and it's used by a lot of people. It does some really neat stuff. It's essentially does your kind of post-processing for your vocal track while you're recording. So everything runs, so your mic runs into here, it puts out an output. You can then move that output into OBS or into whatever you happen to use, right? Lots of people use it, more or less successfully as far as I can tell. And in fact, the last probably 3 videos that you did see used this program without problem until now. So of those 6 videos, let me close that and bring this up here for you. This is the one we've already seen.
If we do go up to the first division, we
Same thing.
They actually did do a final playoff there.
Then we go into the third one. I think this one works.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Do I want to do it that way? Do I want to lower it down like this?
This one inexplicably worked. No idea why. That one's good. You can hear there's no sound at all on this one. Lips are moving, nothing's happening. No audio track at all. That one just got lost.
Welcome back, guys. I'm Mellowseven. This is Football Manager 2018.
There we go. More
And,
broken audio there. And this, I think, is 6 here. No audio. Now, I start that video, every video, with the clap, usually. Almost always. Specifically to help me sync my audio with my video. So if we come back over here, whoops, we can bring it out a little bit more. There we go. And I try to make sure that that sound happens. So you can see it's just a little bit off. It's not terribly far off, and I have some delays built into OBS, but it doesn't ever seem to quite be able to get it where I want it. So I just do a clap ahead of time, then I can adjust my audio track that tiny bit. I've got a visual clue. That's why they use the clapper, you know, when they set up, you know, for filming, right, that we all know and love. And then I usually say something, you know, whether it's just testing or a quick little talk, and I look down to my right, and I verify that I do in fact see that my mic is moving here. I'm not always good about checking desktop audio, and we'll get to that in a minute, because there's no real audio in Football Manager initially. So there's no point in looking at it till you're in the game, and by then I've probably forgotten. Sometimes I remember, and I go ahead and I go into the preferences and I do a quick audio test real fast just to make sure the game audio works. But most of the time I leave it alone. Now, it's important to understand that all 6 of those videos, there was no change in the setup for anything. Everything was running the same. You know, probably the first 3 were filmed essentially back to back to back, and the last 3 were filmed back to back to back. So there's no changes. OBS wasn't open and closed. None of this stuff was changing as we went, and yet we got 3 completely different finalizations, only one of which was usable, and only one video in the middle of 6 does not let me tell a story. So I lost all 6 videos. I don't know how many hours worth of work it was all told, or play, depending on how you look at it. But as you're going to find out, there was some work involved in that as well. So really frustrated last night. And in fact, last night I went to film this video. This is the second attempt at this. And because it was late at night, I had switched the audio from the speakers on my monitor, which is HDMI, over to my headset. And that required going in and changing audio from the HDMI output to the speaker output. I forgot to adjust OBS. So I had no audio for you to hear. You could hear me just fine in that case, but the audio for that came off of Premiere and that came off of those video clips, non-existent. So I get to do it again. Yay. That one was my fault, though, completely and totally. Now, what am I going to do going forward? First thing is I'm going to stop using this, whatever the heck it was. I already closed it, the voice meter. It's giving me completely inconsistent results. I'm sure it's a setup problem somewhere. I watched like 12 videos before I started using it on setup. I followed the directions. Clearly, something isn't compatible with something else. So it's dead. I can always do post-processing if I need. I don't need auto-tune for my voice. My voice is just fine, I think, as it is. You may disagree with me. That's perfectly acceptable. But I'm okay with the way I sound on video. So it doesn't really require a lot of tuning. So we're going to just get rid of that, and hopefully that will fix that problem. So the question is, what did you miss in 6 videos worth of footage that you're now never going to see? Well, to start with, we had a spectacular ending to our lean career. Now, not only was I able to get a win on camera, which you did not see because of our audio problems, it got us in the playoffs. So take a look at this. Competitions. We finished 2nd in the league. There we go. 47 points. Very last day. Kjell Haas had a 1-point lead on us. We needed a win or potentially a huge loss on their part. A tie would get us in off goal differential if they lost big. So we had, but a win for us, a loss for them, that was the safest way possible. We ended up with a win for us and a draw for them. I'll take it. And the game itself was amazing. So you can see we ended up in pretty decent form here towards the end. We made a big push as Kjell Haas just collapsed. Let me show you their record really fast before we get in there. Schedule, senior squad. Look at that. We were winning at the end. They were losing at the end. I thought they were going to run away with 2nd place. They'd created a huge amount of separation. You know, this right here, there's a, you know, that's a 12-point drop right there. Back to the crowd with us. So, anyway, so we're winning, they're losing, and then we can go up here to schedule and take a look. Came down to us versus Skeed. At this point, Dolly had already set the division record for most numbers of players in the match with 7. And A-Team had tied the record for number of shutouts in a season at 13. So if we could get a shutout, he'd get his record. He'd get 14. That's actually what I was aiming for. I played more of a counter mentality in this one because I'm not coming back next year anyway. I didn't care if the team got promotion. Not really. It'd boost my my reputation, and it would give me a little extra, you know, little bit of my profile there. But really, I was trying to get A-Team his shutout. If we happened to get a win out of that, so much the better. I figured if he got a shutout, our chances of a win were probably okay anyway, you know, with our set piece abilities with Dolly. So that was the goal. So we went into it, and we may as well see the very end. You can see that the goal wasn't until the 89th minute. Dahir playing hard at the end, picked up a yellow card and got us the goal. And we can come here and we can see how our season essentially comes down to an end right here. Feed it in. There we go. Dolly on a corner to Dahir. Season over. Game winner. Off to the playoffs we go. However, you'll notice it's 25 November here. There's no playoff games down here. And that's because somehow we've broken the database. I assume that it's by loading up Clausen's add-on leagues, which in theory should not be part of this database. Okay, I didn't have them selected initially. We should have started off our base database. There shouldn't be any problems. However, I think there's a problem with the way the workshop integrates these databases. And that is because if we take a look at our transfers, as we dumped Mr. Rasmussen out, I guess we'll look at history. Mr. Rasmussen here, you see he went to Tonsberg. And if we click on Tonsberg, this was a team that before did not have a league. It was a team They could play in cups and that sort of stuff, but it would just say lower division. They didn't actually have a division in this game. And you can see right here, 3rd Division, Group 5, Norway. But here, we don't have anything. So if we go to our division, let's just go home, Lynn, Norwegian, and we just kind of arrow down through here, we're going to see Group 2, and then we're going to see the Norwegian Cup. Those divisions don't show up. So we ended up in between, and I think what happened is that in between, essentially, the game was looking for the winners of the previous division to be part of that playoff. So we've got our 2 losers and potentially whoever's part of the promotion playoff, and all those teams would play together and determine who goes up and who goes down. However, no winners were generated by those leagues. Therefore, it never kicked off. I'm dog sitting over the holiday weekend, so it's more exciting than usual with a 3rd puppy dog in the mix. All right, so that's how I think we broke the league. We ended up with this half-completed leagues from Clausen's mixed in somehow into our standard database, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm not a database expert, although I have begun to learn, as you'll see in the next video after this, which I did actually successfully record last night without screwing up. So what happened was this team's over. They're in a little bit of limbo because we don't know what league we're going to be in. The promotion never happens. Now, we could go back in and we could manually move teams back and forth using either this. I guess it would have to be used this. It would have to be the built-in one, or potentially one of the editors from someplace like FM Scout. They do an editor that you can purchase every year for actual money. Although this in-game editor I think is $5 as well, so also purchased with real money. So we can edit a live database that way. So there were possibilities. But what I chose to do instead was to go ahead and take a look at my player, or me, my manager here, and at some point it'll let me click home, and my profile, and I came in here and I looked at all these numbers. And I looked at all this stuff. I looked at my relationships. I looked at, let's see, let's go back here. We came through to all these things. We looked at our staff details, staff roles, all this sort of stuff. And I took screenshots of everything. And then what I did was I created a new database. I created a new game. I went in, I added in all of the leagues, including the Clausen's leagues, completely, so that we wouldn't end up with this half and half. And then I enabled just Norway. So all of those leagues are in the database, but we were only actively going to play Norway. And then I just came in without a coach. I vacationed right up until about now. I vacationed up to the 1st of November 2019. And at that point, I re-enabled some leagues. So one of the problems we had initially was that we had, in fact, I'll load here so you can, while I'm talking, Journeyman into the future. One of the problems we had was that our reputation was not as high as the team. We took a job at too high a league because there are very, very few lower leagues in the base database. And so what I did was I went into the game and I looked at all of the leagues that had a reputation equal to mine, 1 star. All of these leagues here have a 1-star league reputation. So at this point, 1 November, I went in, I started adding as many of these leagues as we actually had in the game. And all of them are not there. But the majority of them were. Some of them with the base, most of them with Clausen's. We managed to get almost all these in. There's probably 5 of these that we couldn't get loaded. And I enabled those. Now, what happens when you add and subtract leagues using the tool in here to add and remove leagues is that if that league is in the middle of their season, it won't disappear until their season's over. So here you can see we disabled Faroe Islands and Estonia. I don't think Estonia should have been, but is what that is. But it's not going to go away until January 1st, 2020. And that's because their league, their season is already underway. And the same, if we add a league, it won't show up until the first day of their season, their preseason, essentially, right? So you can click these all you want, but until they actually wrap up to keep the database clean, they're not actually going to come and go. So what I did was I added them. And you can see a lot of these leagues started on the 1st, right? So 1-1. And a few of them didn't start until the middle of the year. What I did was I added all the leagues in I wanted, that whole list, and then I started just clicking day by day, continue, and as jobs popped up, I would apply to them. So at a certain point, enough jobs had popped up, I applied, I got a job. Then what I did was I came in here and I got rid of all of the ones in the area that we didn't care about. I managed to get my job in Kazakhstan. So what I did was I came back in and I enabled essentially the surrounding countries to Kazakhstan. So we've got Kazakhstan right here. We've got Latvia and Iran and India and Turkey and China and Russia. You know, all of these teams, these countries that are close by. My thought was at the end of this team, when we're ready to move on, we've already got leagues in the area loaded up. We don't have to wait for this to pop up, right? So there might be some original jobs. And in the same area where maybe we have some scouting, we have some idea, we have some maybe languages, right? And then we can continue on with some continuity within the same region, even if we're not within Kazakhstan for the next one. That was my goal. That was my plan. And I thought it was an excellent plan. But what happened was once we got into our team, and our team was beautiful. I'm so gutted that this didn't work. I really, really, really like FK Altai Semei. This town, the town of Semey or Semey in northern Kazakhstan, right on the Russian border. It's the town of 5 chambers. It was founded, I believe, the early 1700s when the Russians came into an area that had been abandoned, and they built a fort next to an old abandoned Buddhist monastery with 7 chambers, hence the name, right on the river. The team itself is a combination of 2 teams that formed together in 2016. In the past, some of those teams have had some success. I'm not quite sure why it doesn't show up there. Maybe we have to go to history. You can see here that we do have some history with the team because of those 2 previous teams. Our squad, though, was very interesting. It was very old. It was about 35 people, which is huge for me, and most of them were 25 to 31-ish. And to have age, you can see here, even afterwards, we still have a number of, there's 331 players, 5 players 30 and up. Now, the rules for the Kazakhstan First League are really cool. And if we come in here and we look, you can see that we have to have at least 3 under 21 players on our match day squad. So between, our 11 players on the pitch and our 9 subs that were allowed, so 20 players, 3 of those had to be under 21. And our registered squad with a max of 30 players, 10 had to be under 21, which meant that I had about 15 players I had to purge off of the senior team in order to come up with enough room to register under 21s. They don't have to be part of the senior team, but they do have to be registered as part of the match day thing. So they have to be allowed, so we could bring them in and move them out. I can have additional under 21 players that don't have to be registered. I can bring them in and out as I need to. But I had to have at least 10 registered in the team, which meant 10 to 15 of those players who were on my senior team at the moment couldn't be registered for the league, so they had to go. Most of them I booted down to the reserves. And then from there on, we started putting people out to trade. Most of them were just transfer listed initially. And then one of my favorite things about this whole deal was, as they bitched when the final registration went in, they came and demanded why they weren't on the first team registration. And there was no option to say, look, I've got 35 of you, and I can only have 20 because I got to have 10 youngsters on there. No option for that, by the way. I would say, that's fine, we'll try to trade you. And as soon as I said that, because within my staff responsibilities, where is it? Outgoing. Offer first team players you've loan listed to other clubs. Our general manager just dropped everybody. Just, poof, you're gone. Because we're not on the transfer window. So he just dumped them, just released them. Have a nice day. Instantly. Like, as soon as we hit continue, they were gone. And it happened over and over. And in fact, we can take a look and see. There you go. There's the first 4 of them. As soon as they bitch, they're gone. They bitch, they're gone. It was beautiful. But the problem we have with this team, and I see that as I talk, we're losing green screen. Let's fix that really fast. You guys are getting deep behind the well, here, there's let me show you that too. deep behind the curtain here, literally in this case. So if we come up here to webcam and we go to our filters, you can see that we have a crop pad. And here I can adjust stuff. So that one's on the right. So we just click it in. And as the wind moves that around, air pressure, I walk around, it curls up a little bit on the end. So we hit close. We move this out of the way. And in theory, you should now just see me there, and we no longer have that white line there. So beautiful. All right. So anyway, the problem with this team is that as much as I enjoyed it, if we come here to team report and we go to depth chart and we look at all positions, you can see that we have very little depth outside here. And in our very first friendly, we lost Urbase for 3 months. Then, training right afterwards, we lost Nikita for 3 months. Doesn't leave me any depth out here. We played one game with a super narrow formation, and we didn't play well. We got our butt kicked. It was a cup match, and we had something like 30% possession because they were so much wider. We had nobody except guys here in the middle. We had nobody that could go out. We had no depth out there. I couldn't really start players because as far as I really knew, I mean, Dosim, he plays well up here. You know, this is all I had. And I don't remember if Marat started out on our senior team or reserves or where he was, but normally if I'm going to play wide, I'm going to play 4 back here and then we'll go narrow up there, you know, in a 4-3-3 diamond or something along those lines, which I do really like. I don't usually play attacking wingers, but we tried this. And I saw that I did have some players, but my thought is if I've only got these 2 players and I play one on each side, I've got no depth anywhere else. I can't fill in. If there's an injury or we just need to give guys a rest, right? I've got nothing. So we couldn't play wide unless we brought in new players. But we went to transfer. Let me show you. Let's see, it'll be under scouting. Every player we tried to bring in should be on short list. Why is my short list so short? This might be an earlier save. Load. Let's try here. As I made transfer offers, it automatically adds people to my short list. And then as time goes by, it was automatically removing people. I don't know why it does that. You know, you get those messages, such and such removed by the short list by your instructions. My instructions were to put people on indefinitely, usually. Let's see if we can see it here. Of course, I found it last night. Whoops, that's not what I'm looking for. Scouting, short list. Ah, well. Take my word for it. I've had about 15 players on there, including these 2 who are pretty good and play outside of Kazakhstan. And you can see he's listed and he's listed. These 2 were not. This was ambitious for me, just trying to get good people for wingback is what I wanted initially. I was going to play wingbacks. None of those players would come. They would all instantly say, they wouldn't even give me a chance of negotiation. They would just say that the compensation package at Altai was not good enough for them to relocate. And I wasn't given an option to prove them wrong. It was just red and nothing. And I was completely incapable of bringing people in. Everybody I tried to bring in, regardless of worth, regardless of unhappiness level, transfer listing, loan listing, any of it, it was impossible for us to bring a player in. So we couldn't fill in any depth. We had the team we had. We couldn't replace injuries. We couldn't get depth. We couldn't do anything. And I didn't believe that we were going to be competitive without wingers, without the ability to get some depth or width on occasion. We don't necessarily need it every game, but we needed to be able to have some depth. So, not only that, but when we came here to home, there's no option for us to ask to go on a training course, which is the whole point of us leaving Lean was to go on a training course. So we can't do that. So between being unable to sign players, being unable to go on a training course, we didn't have a lot of issues. We weren't going to be able to play this. It doesn't advance our storyline. It doesn't take us anywhere. It all of a sudden became an alternate storyline, right? An interlude into our real story because it wasn't going to advance anything. And I didn't believe that we were going to do well enough to win promotion, which was the requirement for the job, not if we couldn't actually create a workable team. Now, having said that, this one is too early. Let me find one where we actually played some games. Journeyman into the future. This should be the most recent one. I did actually play a few games, and I had a blast. I really, really like the core of this team at Altai Semei. Oh my gosh, I had such a good time. And where are my... Have I broken it again? Clearly I have. Somewhere in here. Oh, did I call it broken team? Is that what we called it? Let me try that. Let's see what this is. There were a lot of saves in here as I tried to figure out what was going on. As I split things off and tried one thing, tried something else, messed with stuff in the background. I worked really hard to try to get this. Oh, in the meantime, what I did was I edited my own profile to look the same as the profile from the first save. There might be some small changes here because we have been playing for a little bit, but you can see I've got my National B license, my reputation. If we were to go over somewhere, maybe. We'll look at it here, I think. No. Where is it? Staff details? Somewhere in here is languages. And I even edited the languages so we spoke 1 out of 10 on Chinese, and we spoke Norwegian and Spanish, which are the languages. Spanish is what Americans start with, English and Spanish. The only thing we couldn't add was we couldn't add our scouting knowledge of Norway and China, and we couldn't adjust these. I'm sure there's a way to do it on a live database, but I'm not sure how to get to it at the moment. And so those were the things we couldn't change. But anyway, we did that. So let's go ahead and take a look at our schedule here. And here you go. Now you can see how things went. Now, these in the blue are cup matches. This is that first one where we just got completely outclassed. And you can see back here we had a little bit of success because we did score 1 goal. 2 minutes in, I was excited, and then just complete domination from there. But then we decided that even though we only had 2 players, 1 for each wing, we were going to play them. And we ran with a tactic that looks like this. We ran 3 defensive backs, 2 defensive midfielders, and we prayed that that would give us enough defensive depth that we could survive this lack of width out here. And we went on and we had a good time. So this game, it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't spectacular. Konstantin had 2 goals. Then we came here. Konstantin had 3 goals. And we came here. Konstantin scored on the very first play of the game. 1 minute in, bam. Oh my God, it was so much fun. I had such a good time. This video is already going to be a little bit long, so I'm not going to show you those here, but it was spectacular. I had a great time, but we were a very, very fragile team. When we came to this cup match right here, almost none of our team started because so many players were injured. And in fact, we did have to start 2 injured players because Nikita was freshly back, but not really ready for more than 45 minutes. Alexei was injured as well in the game. Our entire front 3, Konstantin, Saber, Dosum were all injured. Urbez wasn't back yet. Nikita was injured, like I said. We've had to drop Ali back for injury. Now because we lost 1 of our 3 defensive center backs. Then now Ivan's injured on top of that. So now I'm down to 1 defensive center back for the whole team. No decent defensive wingers. We've got some this, right? Not even 1 star guys off the youth team, but we've got nothing to put back there. And because there's no way for us to build a team, there's no way for us to overcome this. But I had a good time while it lasted. I really, really liked Ali. The numbers are not spectacular, but he's fast, he's determined, he's aggressive, and he's a decent tackler. And he made some spectacular tackles. At one point, he tackled the ball away from 3 players in a row. He tackled from the first guy, ball rolls to the next guy. He just worked his way down him. just like they were a row of dominoes sitting up there waiting to fall down. It was awesome. So he was a joy to watch. Dosum, who isn't very good, has just been pounding in the assists. He's got 3 assists already there and 2 in the cup, so 5 assists already, essentially an assist a game. He's been great and picked up a goal on that. And there's nothing here. He's got decent first touch and some speed, and that's really it. That's it. And then the hero of the match is Constantine, and you can see there, he's put away. In the games we've played, 1 game, scored a goal. 2 games, scored 2 goals. 3 games, scored 4 goals. More than a goal a match, just scoring for funsies. He has been spectacular. Average rating of 8 in the league, 7.5 in the cup, and even 7 in that first friendly against a Premier League team. And again, a little bit of pace, but 13, 14, 13 up here. 13 heading, although that really hasn't played into this at all. Although I think he kept the ball alive on some attacks once with a head. But realistically, this could have been a 2. It wouldn't have changed what we were doing. But decent composure. Not a lot for flair. Not much for vision, but he works hard and he's got some teamwork. Anticipation's only 10. So not spectacular, but spectacular enough. And the end results at the end of the day were greater than the sum of these numbers. And he was just fun to watch. So that was the league, and that's what happened. So those 6 videos that we recorded, both of the end of our time in Norway as well as the beginning of our time in Kazakh, and all the work we went into in the database to try to rebuild our Journeyman League from scratch with hopefully a working database and with the addition of all of Clausen's add-on leagues, all of that's gone. I'm really, really sorry. I was so gutted when I sat down to edit these videos last night. It was late at night, and I was already a bit depressed and frustrated and not having a good day. Not because of this, just general brain chemistry. And just to get hit with that at the end of the night was just terrible. So it's a new day. We're up. I've got another video that's going to come after this, where we go in to try to find out what was wrong with Altai Semei. Why was that team so broken that we couldn't do so many things? And we couldn't find all of it. We did find some of it. But we go into the actual main database editor for Football Manager, the offline database editor. And we take a look at that. I'm still uncertain what I want to do going forward. I believe what I want to do is, I think we will create another one. We'll do the same thing. We'll create our coach. Yeah, I think we have to create a third database with the Clausen's leagues in, or remove Clausen's leagues. If we remove Clausen's leagues, we could go back to our initial save. That's definitely that's a possibility. And so we'll have to look at that and see if that maybe can fix some problems. I don't know if it will or not. I might go through and unsubscribe, go back to an earlier version, and see if we can win that game, if we can get if it'll give us the promotion without those leagues in there. I don't know if it'll break it or not. Or we create a whole new game altogether. If we do that, I would like to play Kazakhstan. Maybe we add everybody in again. We come here, we spring forward to the year we want to be. We edit our manager minus all of his experience that we have, but the numbers and the everything else is the same. And we start over. And maybe we give Altai Semei another chance, because I really do like the core of this team. Now, will the core of the team be the same the second time around? We don't know. We do have some years of vacationing. The AI may take different routes. It may end up slightly different. Also, the league would start from the very beginning, as opposed from when we added it in after the end of our 2 years, with Norway. So I don't know. The team could be a little bit different. It could be much the same. I don't know. But I think that's probably what I'd like to do. So we'd go ahead, we'd create our league, we'd add in Kazakhstan, we'd create our coach, we'd edit our coach, we'd vacation up to the appropriate time period, and we just make ourselves the coach of Semey. So essentially we're back to where we started the beginning of this portion. And then we play from there. I think I did fix the problems with the database for Semey, and you can, like I say, watch the next video and see how we did that. That doesn't mean it's perfect. I've gone through and done some testing since then. It's still very, very difficult to sign players to lower league teams. At the wages we pay, even at the top of our wages we pay, players are not willing to relocate, even if they're unhappy and they're transfer listed. Sports Integrated has this thing tuned so difficult that those players won't leave. They have no options that they'll go to, and they demand to leave the team they're at. And they're probably demanding that those coaches trade them and sell them, and yet at the end of the day, they won't ever sign on the line because you're not paying enough. So the lower league you go, the bigger and bigger a problem that becomes, to the point where in Norway, we couldn't get a player to drive across from one team in Oslo to another team in Oslo to join us. I mean, we couldn't even get that, as you recall from those videos. So it's tuned badly, and it doesn't take into account where the cities they're in already, which is just asinine. I shouldn't have to fight that within the same town. I can understand not wanting to drive all the way across Norway for the possibility of making a couple $1,000s a year as a part-time football player. You've got a real job. The realities of it are that it's much more difficult for those lower league guys to travel. But if that's the case, it needs to detune the demand for playing time. So the lower the reputation player, it needs to bring that down, that requirement down, because there's no solution that allows for you as a manager to win. There has to be some way for you to deal with every situation to some extent. I mean, it's always possible to screw things up too bad you get yourself locked in a box. But to just know going up front that no matter what you do, you can't bring people in, you can't get rid of the unhappy people. What do? You can't build a team, you can't replace the people, and you can't keep the people you have. So it's a bit of an issue. And the reality is it needs to be detuned. These guys are part-time players. They do understand that they're not always going to play the lot. If you're a backup player, I had this issue here. I had 3 backup players come to me after the first cup game of the year and demand to know why they weren't getting playing time over the starters. It says in your contract that you're a backup, not a starter. Those guys are key players. Those are first-team players. We need to dial that back as well. If your contract is a backup or rotational player, they need to dial back their expectation of playing time, because right now they all think they're better. We saw it in the other save, maybe. I think so. At one point, A-Team was setting the record. He had given up 1 goal in 7 matches. 1 goal. And our backup goalie, Rasmussen, came and told me that he was better than A-Team. He was playing better than A-Team, and that he should be the starter. It says he's a backup. It says A-Team's a key player. We just had all the news articles that A-Team was unbeatable. He was the best goalie in the league. Nobody could touch him, and he was going to set all the records. And in fact, he did set all the records. And yet Rasmussen somehow believed that he was going to be better than that. That wasn't the case in FM17. In the past, I could say, look, he's in good form, he's playing well, and they would say, okay, you're right. And that is the right answer, even for this guy. This guy could say, look, I don't believe I'm going to get playing time. I understand why I'm not getting playing time. I would like you to trade me or loan me or something so I can get playing time, because it's not a possibility. I'm okay with that. But then to come up and demand that you be started and accept no other option, while that might happen once in a while, it is true. Soccer players aren't known to be the most rational, smart people on the planet. So far, within our limited experience of this game, we've got 100 plus hours in. What do we have in this? 154 hours in. It seems to be pretty badly off. So it'd be nice if that gets changed. Anyway, watch the next video, see what we did with the database. I play with the database editor for the very first time. I've never used it. I wasn't even sure where to find it. And I don't believe I mentioned that, but let me show you where it is real quick, just in case you're wondering. If you come here into your library and you go to Tools, you're going to have a list here. You can come down here. Here's your FM18 editor. Here you can see I've never even loaded the FM17 editor. I don't know what the resource archiver is. I don't know how to use any of this, really. Once you've installed it, you can come over here to install, and you'll see tools show up here, and so you can open the editor that way. This is an out-of-game editor, so this edits your base databases, not your live databases. If you want to edit live databases, you either need to come into the game and use you got to pay the $5 or whatever it is for the in-game editor here, where you can come in and you can edit some stuff, or you can go ahead and get a third-party editor. This is the FM Scout editor. And you can see here, once you're loaded in, you can do this. Now, again, you can get a you can get the base one here, which doesn't allow you to edit anything. You could use it as a scouting tool if you wanted, to some extent, but you can't actually make any changes to the database without, again, paying them $5 or whatever it is. And you can see we've got some basic stuff here. Finances, kits, teams here. We can see who the team is. And then we could say, click on Constantine. So you could use this for scouting. But, we've got our attributes here. This is a way before that you could see some of the hidden attributes that you couldn't see before. And this is the first time I've actually dug into this, to be honest. I was trying to find out what was wrong with our team, which is why I got it, but I wasn't quite willing to pay $5 yet. So you can see here, you could use this for scouting. I'll give you all the basic numbers. You can see current ability and potential, left-footed versus right-footedness, jadedness, all that good sort of stuff. Contract positions, preferred moves, relationships. So you can play with all that this way. So those are ways that you can edit the in-game database, the live database. I'm sure there's other ways. You could come up with some sort of actual off-the-shelf database editor, dig into the save, find the database within the save, and edit to your heart's content as long as you're comfortable as a database editor. I have a little bit of training. I used to be a database manager, I guess. Not really an editor, but just somebody that made sure that things were backed up, and we could do occasional query if we were looking for something or wondering, and make sure everything got added in. So I got some, so maybe I'll look at figuring out how to do that in the future. But I really don't have a huge interest in screwing with the databases as far as mods or anything else. Although I was thinking it might be interesting to see if we could work in a save where our coach is a hero, an ex-player from the past, and we could add him in as a favored personnel, and as an ex-player, maybe give him some records or something like that. I thought that would be fun. And he comes back to coach the team. Because we see players retire and coach. It'd be great if we could make one of those players. We're allowed to click that at the beginning, were we a Sunday League player, were we an international or whatever. So we can add that in, but we don't ever actually have a team attached to that. So it'd be great if we could come back in later and build that. I think that would be fun. But anyway, I have talked for way too long. So, assuming that this video actually works this time, all appearances are that it did, but all appearances for the last 6 videos did as well. 7 videos if you include last night's, although that's on me. Take a look. Like I say, we've got a video on, this will go up in the afternoon. The video on the database editing will go up in the following morning. That will be, let's see, today is Wednesday. That'll be Thanksgiving. I will probably not have an evening Thanksgiving video because unless I get it filmed today, because I am going to family for Thanksgiving. So if something doesn't happen Thanksgiving afternoon, have a great Thanksgiving. No matter where you are in the world, take a look at your family, tell them you love them, be thankful for the things you have. We spend too much time as the Christmas season rolls on looking at the things we want to have. Thanksgiving is a time to be thankful for what you do have, for the family that you have, for the good things in your life. Don't get caught up on the negatives for this week. Try to think of the positives, and we will see you guys next time. Cheers.